Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto learns the art of killing, from a mysterious old man, part 3, the last part. Hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start, please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Uchiha Sasuke was dealing with a serious dilemma. His balls ached because of Uzumaki Naruto. It was not because of any underlying attraction between fellow orphans. No, they literally ached because the blonde-haired, blue-eyed devil had the gall to gleefully stomp on them, as if he were attempting to distill a fine wine made from the pulpy remains of the last Uchiha's junk. Instead of dealing with the final academy exam, Sasuke was treated to the one-sided fight equivalent of a public execution. In a few short seconds, the whiskered boy unknowingly threatened Sasuke's ambitions to repopulate his clan, and to kill his older brother with an eye jab and a groin stomp. After many applications of an ice pack, and one disastrous experiment with an analgesic bomb to the affected area, he regained a pained, yet workable, kind of mobility. But just when everything had once again started to regain a semblance of normality, Uzumaki Naruto yet again complicated matters. Somehow, the infuriatingly capable blonde single-handedly took down a worst of all. Sasuke had no clear idea how Naruto accomplished such a feat. It happened all so quickly, and ended with a huge explosion. Sasuke's pride and ego would not allow him to ask the blonde straight out how he did so. Sasuke would find out Uzumaki Naruto's secret sooner or later, but he had other issues that were more pressing at the moment. His injuries were still quite tender. After he nursed his abused groin back to health, much like a mama bird would her fledgling chicks, he would then figure out a way to surpass Naruto, by any means necessary. There were times where the Sandaime was glad to have someone like San around. Having a comrade who lived and remembered Konoha's history, and could reminisce, as well as he did, was a great thing to have at times. This was not one of those times. Are you fucking serious? Uzumaki Naruto stared at his Hokage in shock, hearing the normally kind and dignified man swear out loud for the first time ever. Sen calmly repeated his request. I want you to teach the boy the very first you ever invented. The S-rank one. Not that pansy-ass A rank you could die from chakra exhaustion bullshit, but the very same technique that laid you out for weeks. Sandaime was clearly upset. You do know that if I tried to do that technique, as I am right now, it could very well kill me, not to mention what it would do to our young Naruto here. I'm not asking you to actually do the technique, just teach the boy how to do it, replied San, throwing his hands up in the air almost, as if he were talking to a child who couldn't follow his logic. Uzumaki Naruto looked understandably concerned at the mention of the mystery jutsu's lethality to its user. San continued his reasoning, undeterred. It's perfect for the boy. He already knows the Kage Bunshin, and has the necessary chakra reserves, and his chakra control is getting much better. But it's the most painful technique I have ever had the misfortune to come across. It's not even that powerful. Even now, I can close my eyes, and still feel my skin blistering, and lungs scorching. Why would you seek to inflict such an atrocity on Naruto? Pleaded the Hokage. Yeah, why? Chirped the blonde boy finally, with his hands on his hips. San looked at the two people in front of him, one being his oldest friend, and the other one the closest thing he had to a grandson, and he sighed. It's actually pretty simple. Genjutsu is one of the areas that I have never really trained you in, Naruto. It's not my forte. Most are easy to dispel, and I've shown you how to do so, but the most lethal illusions you will come across will trick the mind into killing the body. They cause a person to give up, because a victim of high-level abuse is subjected to unfathomable pain. If you learn this technique, you'll learn the type of pain that can be matched by anyone's overactive imagination. San shrugged. The fact that this technique can be used offensively is just an added bonus. Sandaime felt more than a little sick knowing that San intended to use him for endurance training. The Hokage felt the need to inform Uzumaki Naruto exactly what the technique was. Decades ago, when the usage of suicidal was fairly common, I tried to adapt one that converts a healthy ninja into a living, breathing, flaming time bomb into a less than lethal technique. I had the brilliant idea to create a reinforced clone that would use the devastating, leaving the user unharmed. Do you know what happens when you dispel a Kage Bunshin, Naruto? The whiskered young boy thought for a second before answering. Don't you get information and memories from it? Right, but what I did not know was that the more potent you make a clone, the closer your connection to it. When my clone detonated, I received not only its memories, but its exact physical sensations and state of mind. I felt as if I had sacrificed my life and my dreams for one suicidal attack. I was the one who burned inside and out. The phantom sensations of pain you feel with this technique can't be dulled by anything except time. Do you really want to experience that? After considering his options for a few moments, Naruto asked the only question that nagged at him. Exactly how big of an explosion are we talking about here? Naruto grinned. The Sandaime shuddered. San nodded, amused by his protege's query. The Hokage, stunned, looked at San, and then to the blonde genin, and said, Naruto, could you step outside, and give San and I a few moments to speak alone? The Uzumaki boy shrugged, and then left the room. Immediately when he did, the professor performed a short sequence of hand seals, casting a flickering barrier encompassing both men. Just what the hell are you getting at, San? Why this desperate kind of training? San smirked, as if sharing an inside joke. Well, it runs true, Sir Toby. Do you know of the boy's ultimate ambition to become Hokage? Of course, the old man nodded, he made no secret of it. In a few years, could you think of a better successor than Naruto? Sandaime shook his head. Many people in Konoha would be gravely upset and target Naruto for outright assassination if they found me favoring him, people like Danzo. Fuck Danzo. Remember when Minato secured his nomination as Yondaime Hokage? Both men had a chuckle at that memory. The young blonde man had offered to display the skill level required of a Hokage candidate by challenging all of the people who objected to his nomination at once. He led all of the objectors, including the infamous Inorachimaru, to a training field to take them on. Holding up a fat, uncapped red marker to stand in for a real kunai, the blonde challenged everyone to come at him freely with the intent to kill. Somewhere along the way, Namikaze Minato failed to mention that he had previously seeded the training ground with tags, a lot of them. In a flash, all the objectors suddenly had red lines and dots across their throats, hearts, and other vital areas. In the future, Naruto will be able to do the same kind of thing, but with a real kunai, and without all the fancy jutsu slinging. The Hokage almost snorted. It's amazing the lengths you'll go to leave a legacy in Konoha. Sen smiled, don't get me wrong, but I have a strange feeling that even without my interference, Naruto's the type of person who would become Hokage through sheer determination and grit. You don't know that boy like I do. Sandaime considered the future of Konoha far beyond his own lifetime, and nodded. In the end, the Hokage acquiesced, agreeing to instruct Naruto starting sometime in the next week. With their objective accomplished, San and Naruto headed off to train after having breakfast. Uchiha Sasuke had just gotten extremely lucky. He had managed to stumble across Naruto training with an old man. It was actually kind of disheartening. There were no flashy techniques, gouts of fire, or crackling electricity. All that Naruto did was leisurely evade the old man's sword strikes. Truth be told, after a while, it was kind of boring to watch. There were no clones, explosions, or illusions. Sasuke actually yawned. The old man paused in his movements and spoke aloud. You might, as well, come out of hiding now. I know you've been watching for a while. If you're that bored, I can always carve your eyes out of your skull and replace them with your testicles to try to steal my techniques. Sasuke immediately left his hiding spot. Sen turned towards his student. Can you vouch for this asshole? That's one of my new teammates, Uchiha Sasuke. He's alright, but he's kind of a dick, shrugged Naruto. That makes sense. All the Uchiha men I've known were either arrogant bastards or psychos or a vicious mix of the two. Sasuke started to feel anger at the old man's comments. The women I'll miss. I never partook because I was a married man, but the stories I could tell you of the dark-haired beauty Uchiha Mikoto and her magic fingers, or the talents of her cousins. Those gals inspired volumes of literature. San looked at the newcomer strangely. Hey boy, I thought only your eyes were supposed to turn red, not your whole face. Being a mama's boy, Uchiha Sasuke rushed to San, screaming, I'll kill you. San turned to Naruto remarking, he's obviously delusional. I'm guessing he's more like a crazy type Uchiha then. Barreling forward, Sasuke started to form hand seals. San calmly unsheathed his sword. Naruto snorted and waited for the carnage to unfold. For most shinobi of the elemental countries, the usage of edged weaponry was purely pragmatic. The typical ninja generally learned the simplest and most effective ways of killing with a blade. What use would there be in learning about various subtleties, such as historical and cultural contexts concerning a given weapon art? Many shinobi, including the 7 swordsmen of the village hidden in the mist, followed this widely accepted tendency. After all, what use is subtlety for a ninja like Hoshigaki Kissen, who wields a semi-sentient chakra-devouring sword that is taller than most men? San of Konohagakure was unlike most ninjas. The wise and old man knew that most ninjas were only looking for instant gratification concerning battle effectiveness, and were disinterested in anything much more in-depth. This is why numbers of medic nin were always notoriously few, and numbers of exponents even lower. That was also why San, with all his worldly wisdom and eloquence, often referred to most ninjas as stupid fucking idiots. It wasn't that the approach in training only the simplest and most effective techniques didn't produce good ninjas. It did. Unfortunately, this narrow-minded focus tends to stunt a person's growth in the long run. San was not interested at all in mere battlefield effectiveness. Decades of field experience already ingrained in him an effortless and frightening efficiency. No, San was interested in absolute mastery of edged weaponry. To San, this entailed becoming an expert in various subtleties. This was why it was a necessity to teach Uzumaki Naruto about the origins of the fighting art they both practiced, and the reasons for why it existed. Even an idiot could copy a movement if given enough repetitions. To San, there was no skill in it. He knew that there was much more to the path of mastery than learning a sequence of movements. More than knowing movements, a person had to understand the mindset of the art they practiced. It was better to understand the essence of an art rather than its base mechanics. If one focused purely on the base mechanics, one could not improvise, improve, and ultimately master an art. If a shinobi was keenly in tune with the spirit of his or her art, then the base mechanics of their extrapolations and improvisations would more often than not be just as effective or even more effective than what they were originally taught. In battle, you had to improvise. From first-hand experience, San knew that one was not always fortunate enough to have access to an outrageously powerful weapon, like the famed swords of the Seven Swordsmen of Kurigakure or the Nidame's Raijin. Shit, often on the field you'd have to make do even without basic supplies. A ninja had to be sharp enough to use any tool, any advantage that could come their way against a sea of disadvantages. One of Sen's most memorable examples of battlefield improvisation occurred when he had run out of kunai and was only armed with a single sword. In order to protect the life of a wounded comrade, and being too far away to physically engage the enemy, he had used a child's discarded paper aeroplane, reinforced and weighed down with chakra, as a deadly projectile. The enemy nin was briefly distracted by a swiftly approaching whistling sound, before the top half of his skull was just as swiftly separated from the bottom half. Watching Uchiha Sasuke barrel towards him with his chakra blazing, Sen surmised that the angry young man didn't know a damn thing about subtlety. Feeling generous, the old man felt like sharing. There were times where Uzumaki Naruto utterly loathed the 3 minutes it took to prepare instant ramen. This was one of those times. By the time a bowl of instant ramen would be ready to eat, Sasuke's little temper tantrum would have already been snuffed out by an icy cold dose of reality provided by San. The simple actions of pulling out a thermos and applying hot water to dry noodles could cause him to miss something. Missing the opportunity to watch San in action was something Naruto had no intention of doing. Despite seeing the old man's skills on a daily basis, watching San with a sword was something the young blonde boy had never gotten tired of. It was hard to describe, but it had an entirely different feel from when San played around with knives. Naruto once tried voicing his observation to San, and the old man chuckled. It was not the kind of humor that suggested the old man was having fun at the expense of his student, but rather that he was amused by an inside joke Naruto did not yet understand. He explained, "Boy, playing with knives is a game for young men. It's all mobility and viciousness. Swords are perfect for an old bastard like myself, so I can be lazy, as well as vicious at my advanced age." They both laughed at that. San with a sword was anything but lazy, Naruto thought. A good word to describe it would be perfect. The old man moved only as much as he needed to. He didn't need to flip around and fling fire all over the fucking place, but he could if he wanted to. San with a knife was brutal and nasty, but with a sword in hand, he was a picture of calm and poise, and just as deadly. It was downright annoying to deal with. His movements were deceptively simple, but they were perfect in both timing and distance. Naruto knew that any holes that appeared in the old man's defenses were simply illusions. San would purposely leave openings with his postures, casually inviting attack. For his opponents, targeting anywhere else made absolutely no sense. In reality, San was baiting an opponent into attacking an area he could easily defend, and where he could attack and counterattack without overextending himself. It was devious, and deeply appealed to the prankster within Uzumaki Naruto. Essentially, you were screwed if you tried to attack or not. For all intents and purposes, San might as well be wielding a magic wand instead of a sword, considering how he caused bellies to open and extremities to disappear. Naruto's mentor was quite used to feeling the sensations of hate and killing intent being projected towards him. After killing enough people and paying enough attention, San was able to differentiate between various types of hatred and killing intent, as if he were a connoisseur of fine wine. There was the standard "you killed my sibling, parent, teammate, squad lover, prepare to die" type of hate. There was also the self-destructive "I hate you so much I'll take you down at the cost of my own life" kind. There was even the type that seemed too challenging to encapsulate with simple words, as in "fuck you, you fucking fucker." The Uchiha boy was filled to the brim with hatred and anger, but oddly enough, not all of it was directed towards San. It was as if Uchiha Sasuke was gearing up for a marathon of hate, and the white-haired man in front of him represented only the first 3 blocks of it. To be honest, San couldn't help but feel vaguely insulted, as he casually dodged a number of small fireballs containing shuriken. It all made sense given the boy's history though. Uchiha Itachi massacred his entire clan, save for his younger brother, to secure his title as the undisputed king of all psychotic assholes. San acknowledged that the boy had better reasons than most to hate so fiercely, but it seemed as if the boy had internalized that trauma and hollowed himself out to feel nothing but hatred. Although he was no Yamanaka, San had a sinking feeling in his gut that, if left unchecked, this would not end well for the Uchiha boy or for Konohagakure. He had seen this and similar situations far too many times in the past. This would not do at all. Uzumaki Naruto was entirely correct about not having enough time to even start preparing a bowl of instant ramen. San made his move while an airborne Sasuke, wielding fistfuls of kunai, was in the midst of an impressive-looking taijutsu maneuver. The wiry old man simply evaded and ended the fight with 2 whirling cuts. The first cut drew a line through both of Sasuke's eyes and the bridge of his nose. Before Sasuke could even feel his sinuses filling with blood, San's last cut passed through his throat. Moving again instinctively to avoid the blood spray, San observed the last Uchiha in Konoha as he gripped his throat helplessly and collapsed to his knees, as if trying to will himself to stay conscious. He could not succeed. Naruto finally exhaled a breath he did not know he had been holding in. The blonde boy made his way to his teammate and nudged his convulsing body with his foot. "Hey Gramps, aren't you gonna heal him or something? 'Cause he could die, right?" The concern was blatant in Naruto's voice. "Yes. Yes he could," replied San, simply observing, but making no move to help the Uchiha. The older shinobi's reply did nothing to assuage Naruto's worries. "Old man." Sasuke's life flashed before his eyes in bits and pieces. It was full of little moments he tried to forget, things like the scent of his mother's hair, or lullabies she would sing, or the times his father would tuck him in at night after telling him stories of heroic ninjas. Some memories were quite random, like having breakfast with an aunt whose name he could not quite remember, or training with wooden kunai or tag with his older cousins, or snippets of arguments or jokes. He saw some times he desperately tried to repress, like the times he remembered admiring and loving his older brother with the purity only a child had, and the times he watched his family die while in the embrace of Itachi's. The Uchiha then relived some moments from the recent months and years of his life. He could remember ignoring his loneliness and trying to fill the deadness he felt inside with anger. "So this is what my life as an Avenger amounts to, not a damn thing," Sasuke thought bitterly, as the stream of memories abruptly ceased. Although he was no longer flashing through his life, there was still a sensation of forward movement. He was moving towards a light in the distance, and, as he sped closer, he could see the silhouettes of the members of his long-lost family. They seemed surprised, yet overjoyed to see him. Voices he hadn't heard in years called out to him. He was continuing onward, and, as their features became clear, soon they would be close enough to touch if he reached out to them. Then he woke up. Sasuke sat up and wiped the liquid from his eyes, expecting to find blood. He felt like a wound from which a scab had been ripped, but only water appeared on his fingertips. Sasuke didn't even know when he had started crying or even the last time he had wept. It felt like it had been years. Sen's gravelly voice rang out. "That was no, boy. That's what happens sometimes when you come awfully close to dying." "Why?" asked Sasuke, close to sobbing now. I could almost touch them again." Sen wiped the sweat off his brow with his forearm. "If a bone gets broken and doesn't heal right, it'll come out all crooked. Sometimes the answer is to re-break the bone so it can heal properly and turn out stronger than before. People are like bones this way." Sen fixed the Uchiha with a steely-eyed glare. "If you try to forget and make yourself numb, you will never heal. You'll turn into another walking tragedy in the making, doomed to repeat your past either as a victim again nor playing the part of Itachi for someone else." Sen looked to both Naruto and Sasuke this time. "We've all got to learn from the events that hurt us, otherwise we aren't worth a damn in this world." Naruto felt distinctly uncomfortable with this conversation with Sasuke breaking down, and all. He had never expected the dark-haired boy to ever look so human. They weren't really friends at all, but Naruto still felt he had to do something. After Sasuke composed himself some more, Naruto offered him the bowl of instant ramen he had originally prepared for himself. "Take it. I'm not that hungry." The blonde blatantly lied. The Uchiha boy accepted the bowl with a barely audible mumble, quite possibly indicating his thanks. San nodded to Naruto. "We should head out soon, boy." When San and Naruto departed, Sasuke lingered for a while to collect his thoughts. He still ate the ramen before it went cold though. "Yo Gramps, what was that whole thing with Sasuke about?" asked Naruto on the way back to the village. "I guess you could call it tough love, in addition to the fact that I've grown soft in my old age." "Yeah, soft." The light cut across the eyes, snickered at Naruto. "I'm serious," replied San. "The last person I showed tough love to permanently lost an eye and an arm. It was a shame since he enjoyed playing the guitar so much. I'd feel almost guilty if he were any good at it, but since he sucked I don't." Sen smiled viciously. Somewhere in a secret underground bunker beneath Konohagakure, Danzo, the leader of the Anbu splinter group Root, sneezed violently, almost cracking a rib, and scattering his carefully compiled secret documents all over the dirt floor. "Fuck." As he bent over to pick up and compile his documents single-handedly, Danzo lamented the loss of his arm and cursed ever having met San and Sarutobi. All the training and preparation had finally paid off, thought Uchiha Sasuke, as he withdrew his sword from his older brother's back with deliberate slowness. The youngest Uchiha did this in as roughly a manner as possible to slide his blade harshly on Itachi's ribs. The scrape of steel against bone was music to Sasuke's ears, as if Itachi were a violin and his sword a bow. For Sasuke, Itachi's suffering was a musical note he wanted to prolong indefinitely. It colored the air and made the world seem rosy. He wanted to bask in it if he could. As with all things, it could not last forever. With his sword finally free, and with a single motion, he decapitated Itachi, letting the traitor's head fall to the ground with his body slumping soon after. Sasuke sank to his knees in exhaustion, breathing heavily. He had avenged his clan, and pitted his Mangekyo Sharingan against his brothers, ultimately emerging victorious. The foreign feeling of elation welled inside Sasuke. Now he could rebuild his clan, and make the Uchiha, once again, into a force to be reckoned with. The sound of mocking laughter disturbed Sasuke's rare moment of peace. Despite being separated from the majority of his body, Itachi's red eyes snapped open. Did you think it would be that easy, little brother? Sasuke awoke on a training ground tasting dirt and blood. Sitting up, he tenderly probed his mouth with his tongue, finding some teeth barely set in bloodied gums. If he was this badly thrashed, what happened to the other guy? Oh yeah, he was in pristine condition. He found his sparring partner, the one who had mashed him into bean paste, and his teacher running through some taijutsu exercises. Sasuke sighed, much like the last gasp of air from a deflating balloon. How did he ever get into this mess? 1 week ago. Due to a lifetime of pursuing the art of sword mastery despite his poor health, Gekuhei had been forced to learn patience and watchfulness. As a result, he was very rarely ever caught off guard, but when Hada Kakashi dropped from his ceiling in dark blue skirmish armor, just as he was enjoying a cup of morning coffee, he squealed like a little girl. Hade immediately tried to play it off by coughing immediately afterwards. If the silver-haired was amused, he made no mention of it. What the hell, Kakashi? Are we under attack? Questioned Hade, looking side to side, trying to keep his voice level to avoid straining himself. Kakashi shook his head. I wanted to ask for your help. I need a few pointers with this. The armored man then withdrew the weapon sheathed at his back, not bothering to activate it. Hade was an expert and all-around sword geek. He had long since worn out his first copy of famous swords of the shinobi world as a child. Even if he had never seen it up close before, there was no mistaking the reforged white chakra saber that had once belonged to Haddock Sakuma the White Fang. Sweet, shivering fuck. Hade's eyes grew wide. Is that what I think it is? Kakashi nodded, handing the weapon to Hade. The swordsman ignored the urge to cradle the weapon to his chest like a mother reunited with her long-lost child. With the blade in his hands, he was starting to salivate. A dark part of himself wanted him to take the sword and run away cackling. After taking a few deep breaths, he swallowed his spit and instead questioned this odd turn of events. Why do I need help with this anyway? Did you finally challenge Guy to a deathmatch or what? Hei pointed to Kakashi's outfit. That would explain the body armor. The masked man shook his head. It's worse than that. The sickly man snapped his fingers in realization. I've got it. One of those swordsmen of the mist is ransoming your porn, right? Kakashi groaned and resisted the urge to slap Hade. Words fail to describe just how entirely off the mark you are. Hade shrugged in response. What then? Kakashi mumbled something under his breath, and his face mask made it damn near impossible for Hade to read his lips. I'm sorry, but I didn't catch that, apologized the swordmaster. I've got a genin team, stated Kakashi quietly. Peripherally, Hade had been given vague impressions of Kakashi's past over the years. They were not particularly close, and the silver-haired man was notoriously close-mouthed when it came to his past. Even in Konohagakure, where everyone and their grandmother had a tragic past, Hada Kakashi's past was still an ugly clusterfuck of lost parents and teammates. Because of this, no one begrudged Hada Kakashi his little orange books or his maddeningly difficult genin tests. Veteran shinobi were notorious for having various quirks to keep themselves sane. So is this what this overkill is for? How did they manage to pass? Kakashi choked off the beginning of a sigh, knowing that this was something that would be hard to live down. It was my fight to lose. In my arrogance, I was blindsided by the most devious prankster to ever graduate from the academy, and a bunch of explosive tags. The word prankster seemed to resonate with Hade. Wait, the Uzumaki kid. I didn't know he had it in him. Yep. Hade let out a low whistle. His only personal experience with the blonde boy stemmed from a number of chases involving the Uzumaki child, needing to be apprehended after a prank. The word chase, for the sickly shinobi, was a relative term. Because of his frail constitution, Hade disliked long-distance sprinting. He could strut with the best of them, but he didn't run from danger. His talent was in being able to cut any obstacles in half. Needless to say, his short pursuits of the Uzumaki prankster were not entirely successful. Hade's train of thought was derailed as the silver-haired nin continued. Apparently, he got himself apprenticed to an old-timer, an elite who goes by the name the Executioner. Kakashi mentioned this in an offhand manner, almost too relaxed to be natural. The sickly Jounin's complexion seemed to get even paler. He didn't recognize the codename, but the words elite and old-timer did not get bandied around Konoha lightly, and especially not by someone of Kakashi's caliber. Haruno Sakura. Uzumaki Naruto. Uchiha Sasuke. My genin has more potential than I know what to do with right now, and I need to knock the rust off if I want to do my job right. Hade nodded at Kakashi's assessment and handed the chakra blade to his proper owner. Okay then. Let's see what you've got. Haruno Sakura was beginning to hate Kakashi-sensei. Maybe more so than Ino Pig, and probably coming a close second to her childhood bully Ami. She had been lulled into a false sense of security when Team 7 reconvened. Kakashi-sensei actually apologized for underestimating them and promised them his best behavior. Sasuke almost snorted in disbelief. Naruto's fingers twitched towards his sheathed knives, and Sakura breathed a sigh of relief. Maybe that suicide capsule talk was a fluke, Sakura had hoped. He looked professional and alert, very much like a textbook example of a proper shinobi. The lightly armored man offered them all a rematch, along with a masked grin. No bells this time, just sparring. Sasuke was the first to take him up on his offer, wanting to test his limits. Kakashi released a wave of killing intent that seemed to weigh down the air. He intercepted the Uchiha's charge, and simultaneously pulled out a kunai. The masked man blurred, staking Sasuke's arms to a tree with his one blade through both of the genin's wrists. It was all too fast for her to make out, and she cried out helpless. Trying to move through the Jounin's killing intent was like trying to move through quicksand. The psychic pressure was making it hard for her to breathe. They stopped with a fresh kunai at Sasuke's throat. The helpless genin was pinned like a butterfly in an entomologist's display. "Watch and learn," said the pleasantly. In contrast to the swiftness of his previous action, Kakashi drew his knife with exquisite slowness. Sasuke wanted to clutch his desperate hands to his open throat, but could not. Sakura was bawling, feeling useless and afraid. The air shifted again, and Sakura could now move. Where was Sasuke? She had to help him. The Uchiha was buried up to his neck in dirt, with Kakashi-sensei crouched beside him, his outfit free from bloodstains. Naruto was beside her, looking quite pale, stealing glances at her through the corner of his eyes with relief. What had he seen? The blonde had ruthlessly shoved one of his knives through the palm of his left hand to dispel the. While Naruto was recovering from whatever visions of hell he had witnessed, Haruno Sakura was still hyperventilating, her heart racing. She collapsed to her knees. This was just the start of their team training. The pink-haired girl had idly hoped before that her future Jounin sensei would be able to make her into a respectable shinobi. This was not how she envisioned things. In the upcoming days, Kakashi had zeroed in on her shortcomings, specifically her lack of physical stamina. He started to wake her up for leisurely morning jogs. Apparently for Kakashi-sensei, leisurely morning jog meant using a sharp jab between the shoulder blades with a pointed stick, as an incentive to not be lazy. Worse yet, the mask had creatively used a number of incentives to inspire Sakura, such as being chased by nin dogs, an unsharpened stick covered in droppings from aforementioned nin dogs that he used to threaten her lustrous hair, and even cattle prod crackling with electricity. Each. You motherfucker. While these morning jogs were helping tremendously with her stamina, they did nothing to treat Sakura's developing case of potty mouth. Kakashi smirked at her growing bloodlust. Sometimes, his genin was so adorable. Sakura, if you've got energy to complain, you have enough energy to jog faster. During their infrequent breaks, Sakura would look over the various pamphlets, manuals, and tomes her sensei would lend her. She was in the midst of psychological warfare, and you by Marino Ibiki, and still had P is for poisoning the fuck out of your enemies untouched. Kakashi encouraged her to train her mind whenever she was not training her body. One morning post-jog, Haruno Sakura had the misfortune to run into Yamanaka Ino, who was, as usual, looking fabulous. Sakura heard a grinding sound. When she realized it was her teeth, she stopped. Ino greeted her with her usual lack of tact. "High forehead. You look like shit." The blonde girl's nose twitched in distaste. "You kind of smell like it too." Ino giggled. For Sakura, the grinding sound returned accompanied by the clenching of the pink-haired girl's fists. Ino looked immaculate because her fucking Jounin sensei didn't prod her along on a death march with a stick covered in dog poop. Sakura did something neither girl expected. She simply followed Ino's old advice of putting her forehead to good use by sending it on a trajectory coinciding with the blonde's jaw. Yes, Sakura floored Ino with a headbutt in a manner that would have made the most hardened professional soccer player wince. She then followed it up with a kick to a downed Ino's head that, if televised, would have prompted an announcer to scream goal at the top of his lungs. Haruno Sakura took a deep breath to calm herself. Maybe her training was paying off after all. Damn it. Was it so difficult to blow yourself up with chakra? Uzumaki Naruto cursed his slow progress with the Sandame's forbidden technique, as he stiffly made his way to team training, smelling, and feeling like he had fallen into a deep fryer. Sasuke gave him a curious glance that Naruto preempted by stating, "Don't ask. Honestly, you'd rather not know." The Uchiha frowned, either as a semi-concerned teammate or petulant child. At this point in time, Naruto didn't particularly know which one it was. Naruto's training session with the Sandame had started off well, with the Hokage showing him the basics of the actual suicide technique. He needed to learn how to fatally direct all his chakra to his heart, isolating and condensing it there until everything burst before he could have a reinforced clone do it. The problem was isolating and maintaining chakra in a specific area. The heart was the center of the chakra circulatory system, so if you push chakra in, chakra would naturally flow out into other areas of the body. It was much easier to die of chakra exhaustion or cause cardiac arrest instead because you burnt out in your chest. It sounded simple. Overload the death gate thing, then boom. The kinda sucked to learn, because, if he did it for real, he would die, and if he messed up he'd get the same result sans explosion. He contented himself by closing his eyes, and getting a feel for the chakra flowing through his chest, occasionally giving himself heartburn, as if he ate one too many bowls at Ichiraku's. He tentatively explored using greater amounts of chakra. When a child popped out of nowhere to interrupt the Sandame's instructions with a thrown-blunted kunai, Naruto's delicate control flew out the window, especially since the inexpertly thrown kunai smacked the blonde in the face. The pain caused his chakra to surge before releasing, leaving him slightly scorched with a few burnt out. Son of a. The Hokage sighed, feeling his age. Konohamaru, I told you to. The third Hokage's forthcoming lecture was interrupted by Naruto, who dashed over to the younger boy, and captured him in a headlock. The genin then applied a fierce noogie, rubbing his knuckles back and forth over the top of the brown-haired boy's head. The Hokage sighed, watching the antics of those who would one day inherit the stewardship of Konohagakure. Good lord, was that smoke from friction coming from his grandson's head? That really wasn't one of his proudest moments, reflected by Uzumaki Naruto. -2 days ago. Uchiha Sasuke had made up his mind. He would calmly, even humbly, ask for instruction from Naruto's teacher. He had days to think about it, and this was what he wanted. Now if he could only locate Naruto. The whiskered boy had proven to be surprisingly adept at shaking off pursuers, and Sasuke's search was growing tiresome. After some time, he had finally found the pair at some food stall, calmly enjoying their meals. Naruto eyed him warily, and the old man did so suspiciously. Sasuke damn near prostrated himself, and made his request. The old man regarded him for a second, and laughed hard. It was deep belly laughter, then ran roughshod over the remains of his Uchiha pride, and dragged it face down through a field of rusty barbed wire. The old man stated, no, no, and never. Sasuke felt the faintly glowing embers of his old anger rekindling. You wanna know why, boy? The Uchiha nodded, not trusting himself to speak clearly. That anger in your heart leaves very little room for Konoha. If you want power you can get it somewhere else, but not from me. There are plenty of others around if you keep your eyes open. Not wanting to admit it, but knowing the old man to be right, Sasuke walked away. The last Uchiha in the village walked along various training grounds to clear his head. That's where he found them, much like he did Naruto and his teacher. They were inhuman blurs, striking fiercely and passionately. It was unlike anything he had ever seen. Master and student paused to regard him in their strange garb. Yash. Uchiha-san, would you like to train? Sasuke shrugged. It was not as if he had anything better to do. Now? Sasuke dropped to the ground gracelessly in a desperate effort to avoid another Konoha whirlwind from Rock Lee. He failed to dodge the vicious follow-up roundhouse to his face. The Uchiha groaned as he bounced and slid along the ground. Again. What the hell? Was he ever going to win? Midogai's voice rang out as loud and clear as a temple bell. Sasuke, do not get discouraged. If you can pull yourself up time after time, you'll never be truly defeated. It felt like a trite saying, but their enthusiasm was infectious. The Uchiha fought against cracking a grin, but despite his goofy-ass haircut, maybe Guy-sensei was right. Maybe all he needed was a lot of hard work. The end. Thanks for watching my video, leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome content. See you next time, till then sayonara.